Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about gauge in today's video. I have been getting some emails from different people asking me to help them with some of the different patterns, and when I ask the question, what is your gauge? Some people give me just tons of question marks like, what are you talking about? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to read a gauge marker, and then I'm going to kind of break down, if you will, a pattern. We're just going to kind of create an imaginary pattern so I can show you the tips and steps and tricks and all of that to make sure that you are creating the right size whenever you are following a garment design. So this is going to be a longer video. I want you to know that. I'd encourage you to maybe grab a notebook, take some notes, and maybe even try to work out the math with me a little bit. And that way you can really understand and grasp exactly how to do gauge the correct way so you don't run into any issues, or so you can maybe start designing yourself or take a pattern and customize it to fit your body type perfectly. So grab yourself a snack, grab a hot cup of tea, a cup of coffee, some notebook paper, a pen, pencil, and get cozy as we dive into gauge. Okay, so today we are talking about gauge. And first things first, in order to really understand gauge, you're going to need a gauge measurer. Now, these come in an array of different looks. This is one that I picked up from Joann. It's by Susan Bates. It's got at least kind of sectioned out to measure up to 2 inches, but you can still get a general idea. And then, of course, it's got all of the spots for measuring your needles and things like that. Then you have centimeters going across the top and inches going across the bottom and then partially up the side. And so this is something that you definitely want to try to add to your tools. But if all you have is like a ruler or just a measuring tape that you would use in like sewing or something like that, that will still work. You don't have to have one of these, but it is good to eventually add. So gauge, what it is it's telling you how many stitches in a pattern will achieve so many inches, okay? So let's take this piece right here that I'm currently working on, and I'm going to turn this down just a tad so you can kind of see. So obviously we've got a combination of different stitches and we have a combination of different rows. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our guide and we're going to come, and I might have to tilt you down just a little bit more so you can see better. So what we're doing is we're finding the bottom of that first stitch. Now these are front post double crochets, okay? So they're a bit longer, so you can see 1, 2, you have 2 front post double crochet that equal 1 inch for our rows. So that is going to determine the length or height of whatever it is that we're working on. And then we have 1, 2, 3 of these stitches gives us 1 inch. So this would determine the width. So you know if the pattern reads 3 stitches by 2 rows, you know that in order to reach 1 inch, okay, you have to have 3 stitches. Now, if you're a tighter crocheter, you might experience this kind of a number, okay, if you're a bit tighter. If you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches equaling 1 inch, but the gauge is 3 stitches equals 1 inch, then you have 1 or 2 things that you can do. 1, you could go up a hook size and try to get that stitch count to match where you need 3 as opposed to the 4 that you're doing. If you're a more loose crocheter, and let's say you are having this issue where it's a bit more stretched out because you're a bit more loose, okay, and you've got like, let's say like 2.5, because that inch is kind of in the halfway point, so let's say 2.5, you might need to go down in a hook size or even a knitting needle size. So when a designer has put a gauge in there and they say, 3 stitches equals 1 square inch, okay, then you've got to either determine what your tension needs to be to achieve this, or you need to go up a hook size or down a hook size. And the same is true here if you're trying to match the same number of rows that is in the gauge. For this one, it's 1, 2. You've got 2 stitches per inch. And so if the designer has said that the gauge is 2 rows per square inch, then you've got to figure out, is it my tension that I need to adjust? Is it my hook size that I need to adjust, or knitting needle size, in order to get that gauge? And I'll show you on a less complicated pattern just so you can see it a bit more clearly. So here we have this beanie, okay? And we've got 1, 2, 3 stitches and 1, 2 rows. So kind of the same exact thing, 3 stitches, 2 rows here, okay? So again, in order to make sure that you're keeping and maintaining the right size, you've got to be able to maintain this 1, 2, 3 stitches per inch and 2 rows per inch. If you are finding that you're, like, let's say you're making one of my designs and your normal size is a medium, but you are a really tight crocheter, you're either going to need to go up a size, or you're going to need to adjust your hook or needle size to fit whatever the gauge is. Let's do another one here. So here is that double brimmed beanie that we did a couple of weeks ago. And it's almost, okay, our rows are different. So we've got 1, 2, 3 stitches to 1, 2, 3 rows. So this is a 3 by 3 square inch. Again, whatever adjustment you need to make a different size, go up a hook size, go down a hook size, or knitting needle size. That is going to help you make sure that you are always making the correct sizes. Now, what I'm going to do really quick is we're going to make an imaginary pattern, okay? So let's say we want to make just a simple pullover, okay? We know we're going to need 2 panels, and then we're going to just make simple kind of boxy sleeves. We're not going to have any tapering or anything like that. We're just going to make just simple rectangle sleeves, and we're going to need 2 of those. So this is how I go through and develop a size. The first thing I need to get is the bust size. So our bust is going to be 38 inches, okay? We're going to take that. We're going to divide 38 in half, okay? Do a quick math. That's going to give us 19 inches, okay? So the front panel needs to be 19 inches across, and then the back panel is going to need to be 19 inches across, okay? So we have to have a total of 38, and we're going to divide that bust in half, what we did here, and we need 19 and 19 for the front and back panels. So let's say we've made up a swatch, we've determined what our stitch is going to be, and we're getting a, let's just do the 3 stitches by 3 rows equals 1 inch squared, okay? That's what we're getting. So we know that we have 3 stitches. Remember, our stitches are width. We've got 3 stitches to get us to 19. So now we're going to determine what that is, okay? 3 times 9 is 27. And 3 times 1 plus 2 is 5. So we've got 57 stitches that we have to do in order to reach 19, okay? Now your hook size is going to be what determines the gauge here, okay? This is the gauge. The hook size will help determine this gauge, okay? So 57 stitches is got to equal 19 inches, okay? So then if you want to figure out the length, typically to figure out the length of an item, you're going to need to get the back waist length. Okay, now if you want this to come down, like let's say over your bum, you're going to need to add anywhere from 6 to 12 inches. Okay, it just determines, it's determined on how long you want it to go. Typically a tunic, which is about mid-thigh, that's usually an additional 11 inches added to your back waist length, okay, if you want to go the length of the tunic. But like in the case of the bobble sweater that I made, I just did the back waist length. I did not add any extra, so it fell right at the waistline. And so that is how you determine the length. So if you ever want to go shorter on a pattern or longer on a pattern, you can easily do that by knowing what your row gauge is, taking your back waist length and adding or subtracting, and then you'll know exactly how many you want to do. Sleeves are the same way. Sleeves are a measurement from the shoulder down to the wrist, okay? And if you have an item where, like let's say you're designing, okay, and this item is the bust plus 4 inches, okay? So now you know this isn't going to fit snugly along the body. This is actually going to kind of hang over a little bit off the shoulder, kind of giving you that drop sleeve effect. So now you've got to figure that into your shoulder down to your wrist thing. So like let's say the measurement is 17 inches. Well, you've got to remember that the designer has added 4 inches to the bust. So now you need to subtract that. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 3. And so now you know that the length of your sleeve has got to be 13 inches and not 17. And this is something that I learned a little bit later on. I had a problem with making my sleeves too long in my designs. And then it clicked in my brain, oh, wait a minute, I'm not accounting for the extra inches I've put onto the body of my piece. And so it's really, really important that do some measuring on yourself and try to compare what they've done. Have they taken the bust and added some inches, or is it exactly what that is? So is it just the bust divided in half, and that means that it's going to be a little more snug? Sometimes in patterns you'll see there's a positive ease of like, 3.5 inches. Okay, so that means that there's some extra inches in there in that body part, and you need to account for that in your sleeves. Now, obviously, the designer is hopefully going to have figured all that out for you. So this is more for people who want to customize a piece a little bit more. Maybe you want to make a shorter sleeve, like a 3/4 inch sleeve. So you would obviously take the measurement of your shoulder to wrist, divide it by 4, and then figure out approximately how long you want that sleeve to be, which is how I came up with a 3/4 sleeve of the bobble sweater. And so understanding gauge is really key in taking a pattern and customizing it to fit you exactly. It also helps you eliminate any type of headache when it comes to something being too big or too small, because the thing is that we all have different tension in which we work with our hands. Some of us are really tight, and also too, our moods can affect our tension. And so having a tool like this and making sure that you are sticking with whatever that gauge is that the designer is given is really going to help you not have so many headaches in your designs. And also too, understanding the logistics of gauge can help you have more confidence and branching out and trying to design things for yourself. And I would recommend, if you wanted to just take that leap in design, start basic. Go a 2-panel top with 2 sleeves, just simple rectangle sleeves. Don't worry about trying to, size it down to fit the body perfectly. Just start super, super basic. And another thing for head holes are typically like for like preteens, so age like 12ish to adult. It's going to be anywhere from 8 inches to 12 inches is what you have to leave for your head hole. And then once you have that determined, that's how you figure out like your seaming here on your shoulders. And so this is a typical head hole measurement. Like I said, some people's heads are bigger. My family, our heads are a little bit bigger, so we fall into more of the 10 inch to 12 inch range for children and adults. But again, that is something that you can adjust based on, and you can make notes for your people if you want to start designing and selling patterns. You can make notes for anybody that buys the pattern to know that, hey, the head hole is anywhere between 8 to 12 inches. It's up to you. The main thing is remembering your gauge. If you've got 3 stitches per inch, then you know that 3 times 8 is how many stitches you're going to skip right in the center, and that's going to help you determine right here. So I really hope that that kind of clarifies things for you and helps you understand gauge. Again, the main thing is if a design has a gauge given to you, you've got to determine for yourself. Are you going to adjust your tension? Are you going to change your hook size up or down, or your needle size up or down? Because those 3 things are what will help you maintain gauge. So I hope that that helps you have some more clarity and understanding of gauge. And I will have a new video released tomorrow. And yeah, I hope you have an awesome week. I really hope you enjoyed today's video on gauge and understanding what it is and what it's all about. I hope that it was helpful for you. Please let me know down in the comments if you have further questions, if you still need clarity on things. Just know I'm always here. I'm always available and ready to help however I can. I want to serve you. So please let me know if something was unclear, and I will do my best to help you work through that issue and make sure that you fully understand it. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these videos. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and be sure to share this with other makers who you think could benefit from understanding what gauge really is. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you Yarniacs later.